Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Top King 123 here once again bringing you another Hearts of Iron 4 Officer School video. The tactics I'm about to tell you guys are mostly designed for multiplayer, and with multiplayer being more difficult than single player, the tips are going to pretty much help you all around. The video is not going to be totally in-depth of air tactics and so on, but instead I'm going to be telling you guys some tactics that I and other people use in Hearts of Iron 4 to win the air war. And what I meant to say there was I'm not going to be going in depth of not tactics, but I'm not going to be going in depth in terms of this plane has X amount of attack and this one has X amount of defense, so you want to mass produce X amount of planes and so on. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to tell you guys tactics. Another really important thing to make sure you guys understand, really two things. I am not using any mods on. I just use the cheat code in-game to just annex most of Europe, so I'd have the factories to show you guys how this works. And another really important thing is I'm using a script on the right hand side because there's so many things I need, or not really a script, but it's more of like talking points. So if I lose track of what I'm saying, I apologize. I'm going off there to try to see things I've written down that's really important to tell people. So anyway, let's go and get started. So what you want to do at the very beginning of the game is to, if possible, get air fighters or get fighters on 2 production lines. You want to get either fighter 1s for one of them, and well, that's kind of obvious. You want to get fighter 1s, but you also want to get interwar fighters or interceptors. It really depends on what you're doing, and I'm going to get into that in a second. You see a lot of Soviet Union players just mass producing biplanes, and here's the reason why. Really 3 reasons. 1, it's making your total number of planes skyrocket, which if you don't know, you look at a nation, it'll say estimated forces like this right here. It's 807 to 1,500 fighters that planes the Soviet Union has. Germany, because I'm Germany, I can see exactly how many I have. And usually if you have more than enough of these, the Allies will stop concentrating on ground warfare as much, especially the UK, and they'll start going for planes to try to outmatch you, especially if you're doing this as Germany compared to the Soviet Union, because if the UK starts seeing you're outproducing them in fighters, the UK player will absolutely start freaking out. 2, you can lend-lease biplanes and still get just as much air XP as you would of lend-leasing regular fighters. The reason you want to do this and lend-lease the planes, especially to Spain, is Germany and the Soviet Union can do this at the start. And if you go down here, start lend-lease, I don't think I actually have any available, do I? Hold on, let me do this really quick. I am going to disband all my planes, all my fighters. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'll get into using these in just a moment. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to start a lend-lease. I'm going to go over here. 324. Cool. I'm going to send him 324. So I'm sending him all my biplanes. I'll talk to you guys more about why I just did that and how to upgrade your planes and what you need to upgrade each one for time by time and so on. But anyway, so the third reason is you're making a what's I call backup reserve of fighters in case you have most of your main fighters deployed to the front and you're just trying to keep them supplied. Well, you have biplanes too that you're not going to have to worry about planes getting shot down because they're going to be here just to guard air superiority, so you don't have to worry about something like the UK hopping into main Berlin. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of biplanes are used to do a backup like air superiority, like, hey, I doubt this is going to happen, but I don't want to send my best fighters down here to guard against something that's probably never going to happen. Kind of get what I'm saying, I hope. Anyway, the reason I said either fighters or interceptors for the second one in the beginning is because it depends on what you're going to be doing. If you're going to be the Soviet Union and you're going to build the Stalin line, which if you don't know is pretty much a line of forts that people have started building. If you're the Soviet Union, a lot of tactics now are building forts behind the Kiev River, and that's because it gives a massive penalty to the person attacking. Plus, if you have level 10 forts on that river too, it's just incredibly overpowered, and there's just hardly any way you can actually stop the Soviet Union players past that point. But anyway, so the reason you want to do that is because if you're the Soviet Union, interceptors are going to be more beneficial to you. Because if you have that Stalin line, you're going to want to build interceptors because the German player is going to start building bombers as soon as he sees that, or because it's so commonly known now, if he's going to go to war with Soviet Union, he's probably going to start building pretty early on those strat bombers to blow up the bunkers, which I'll talk about in a minute. So as the Soviet Union, you want to build interceptors to shoot down German strat bombers so they can't break through. If you're Germany, you're going to want to build interceptors to stop the Allies from strat bombing you. If you're the Allies, you're going to want to build air superiority to stop the Germans from taking the United Kingdom by paratroopers. Or if you're the United States, you're going to probably just want to build fighters to protect your strat bombers. You kind of get what I'm saying. Hopefully you do. But anyway, so it really just depends on what you're going to be doing. If you don't know what to build yet, like if it's really early on, you can never really go wrong with CAS or medium bombers. I usually just try to do this line right here. One fighter, one biplane, one CAS, one strat bomber. That's what the rules I usually try to stick to are. Something else too that's really important. When building your Air Force, once you hit 1938, just try the best you can to get this line. But if you are playing as the United States or the UK, it's possible that you might have to like start allocating some of your plane production towards planes for your carriers and stuff. A really cool tip that I have found on this game: never like do more than 3 from the very beginning of the game. Just put 3 on that stuff from the very beginning of the game if you have the factories, and I've never really run out, because once that kind of breaks out, you have more than enough production going on, and you have more than enough build up to actually last a pretty long time on your carriers and more. So just put 3 military factories on each one as soon as you can. Now let's talk about what pretty much each of these planes do. So close air support is pretty obvious. It's pretty much made to go and support land combat. What that means is Stukas on here, or the Ju-87, is meant to do close air support, which bombs enemy divisions. Now, I don't remember the exact number, but if you have air superiority and you're doing bombing, the penalty on attack or defense for the enemy can be as much as 50%, which is pretty massive. If they have like 110 soft attack, that drops it down to like 50. If they've got 400 defense, they lose 50% of that defense, so that drops it down to 200. You get what I'm saying with the CAS? It's really important. Fighters on here are mainly meant to keep air superiority and shoot down enemy fighters that are trying to get air superiority over your lands to try to do paratroopers and so forth. Naval bombers, that's pretty obvious. Those are just there to like blow up ships. I never really use them though as the United States or anybody except for the carrier versions. Heavy fighters are meant, now if you're doing Road to 56, I think it's actually called interceptors, but heavy fighters, also known as interceptors, are meant to shoot down strat bombers. I don't care what anyone says. These things are built to shoot down strat bombers. Tactical bombers they work well against, but they're mainly meant against strat bombers. Here's why. These regular bombers have light armor, so these work very well in attacking. However, strat bombers are incredibly heavily armored bomber aircraft. I cannot stress that enough, because me and a couple friends tested it once in Hearts of Iron 4. When I was using regular fighters and I went and attacked the Soviet or the US's, like I sent 500 BF-109s against 200 B-17s. I lost like 400 fighters, and he lost, I think it was like only half of his B-17s. I lost half and he lost half. But when I sent heavy fighters and attacked his strat bombers, oh, and I had like all anti-aircraft built, and I had anti-aircraft built everywhere, so I was getting a little bit of a bonus if I remember correctly. Plus I had fighters from other regions, but it was just one region they were really helping with, and the Italian player was helping too, so they don't do well against strat bombers. BF-109s and regular fighters don't do well against strat bombers. But strat bombers are very difficult to shoot down, and for that reason you want to use heavy fighters, because they're mainly designed to shoot them down. Now, tactical bombers, I use these for close air support only, and strat bombing places that aren't really well defended. Now, if you're going to be bombing London, you're going to want to use strat bombers, because strat bombers are the best plane to use. Now, another thing with strat bombers that's really important, why I build them instead of regular bombers, is because CAS can take care of ground targets. These will blow up bunkers. These, if you have enough of them, are going to end up just totally decimating enemy bunkers, and they're going to be losing so many of them, especially if they're Russia. Their production line's just going to be packed full, and then if you're bombing like civilian factories in these areas too, it's really going to be just absolutely insane. So that's pretty much what each one of these does. Strat bombers bombs industry, airfields, anti-aircraft, and bunkers. Tactical bombers pretty much I just use that for bombing ground targets, but they can be used to bomb infrastructure such as civs and military factories. Heavy fighters are used to take down bombers. Naval bombers, obvious. Fighters, air superiority, close air support, bombing ground targets. Now, another thing, I've got 2 more points on here. Or really 3, technically. So, something that's really important that not a lot of people realize is in Road to 56, let me pull it up here. Here it doesn't do anything. But in Road to 56 and other mods, air innovations will actually give you production removal. It will take some of your production away, like 10% when building fighters. And down here, if you're not doing anything and you've got everything you need to research done researching, go to air production, because this takes 20% production cost away from a fighter. So if it's like 100 production cost, you take 20 of that away. So that can help you build bombers like crazy, because these are, 60. So I mean, do the math on that. That's gonna pretty much help you build strap bombers like crazy compared to the rest of the time. You know, if one just took like 100 days, it's only gonna take 80. So it really helps you out a lot in that aspect of it as well. Now for the next thing, when you're playing as Germany, send a lot of planes like I did to Spain. Now the reason is I'm gonna go ahead and let them get down there because it's gonna take a little while for them to get down there, but I'm gonna be talking in the meantime. When you send those planes to Spain, especially if it's an AI, I don't send ground units. And I'll agree with the Soviet Union player, we won't send ground units, we'll just let the AI do it on its own. And they will send planes too, because soon that air experience number is going to start going up pretty quick once they actually get down there. Yep, there it goes. Look how fast we're gaining air XP. Now here's why I always do this. You never want to, and I mean never, ever, ever, ever under any circumstances, want to upgrade your fighters at the very beginning. You want to wait until 1940 or earlier when you have fighter 2s. The reason is because, alright, let's see our attack here. Air attack 27, right? Let's see if we upgrade our planes to the max. Air attack's 27. Alright, look. Air attack, when our fighters are totally maxed out, they're the exact same stats as fighter 2s. So what you want to do is you want to hold on to as much air experience as possible until you actually get the fighter 2s, because once you do, you can upgrade these and you'll have pretty much 1944 era fighters in 1940, which helps out a lot. That's why that's like one of the most amazing things I've ever learned on this game, was just hold on to your air experience. Now if it starts maxing out at 500, you can upgrade some stuff, which I'm going to talk about now. When upgrading your planes, you want to start going like this. Engine first, because that increases your max speed, which in my opinion, that and agility, it pretty much edits how quickly it can attack enemy planes and how it can avoid being hit by enemy planes. Now the reason this is so important is because look at this. If you do range, you start losing reliability. This does absolutely nothing, and it helps you out tremendously. So when using aircraft, you want to, I didn't mean to click off that. When creating your variants, you want to go under engine first, so it can like dodge and all that stuff, and then, and this works for fighters too, I like using this idea, then max out reliability, because each one of these, I think for each 10%, it's like 1 out of every 10 fighters will pretty much die because of accidents. So you want to really go for engine, then reliability up to like 3 or 4, and then after you get reliability, start going to weapons, kind of going back and forth as you can. And yeah, and then range is the last thing. Whenever you're doing dive bombers, because, well, they're dive bombers, they're made to attack, you want to ignore the engines and just work on attack first to help your ground attack stats, and your reliability will go down. So kind of like mix it like this, like 3 attack, 3 reliability, you know, and then 4 attack, 4 reliability, and so on. After you get these 2 maxed out, then you can go for engine upgrades, and then you can go for range. For bombers and strap bombers, you want to upgrade bombing because that's their whole objective. That's what they do. And same thing with the fighter bombers or the dive bombers. you want to kind of mix it the best you can, doing like this, because your reliability. So, with air missions, air superiority concentrates on shooting down other fighters than bombers. And the reason I'm saying this, not a lot of people realize how the air missions, they don't realize what these are. They don't realize how these work. Even though it says right here, not a lot of people realize it. So I think with this one, remember right, with air superiority, it attempts to achieve air superiority by engaging enemy fighters and secondarily enemy bombers and other planes. That's obvious. Close air support, you know, it pretty much says what these do if you look at them. So it's pretty obvious on there. I don't think I have to explain it, but just to give you guys a heads up, it's pretty much, think about it like this. Air superiority, engage fighters. Close air support, you're bombing tanks first. Interception, you're going for bombers and then fighters, which can put you at a penalty. If you're actually doing this and then another person's doing air superiority, you'll lose more fighters because your fighters are mainly attacking bombers. So it's recommended to have something like this. Oh, that's right, I got rid of all my fighters. So you would pretty much do something like this. You would have half of your fighters on interception, and then you have your other half on air superiority. You can just do this, but I like to do half and half, because I think if you actually tell one to do two different things at once, it can still kind of send 90% or somewhere around there towards interception, only 10 to air superiority, and you'd still lose a lot of planes. I think that's pretty much it. No, doctrines, that's right. So, strategic destruction, if you don't know, this is the last little bit. Strategic destruction is mainly geared towards the idea of you're going to be bombing the enemy into submissions. So this works great as the allies because, right here even, naval mission efficiency, so that helps towards the United States a lot. With aircraft carriers and the UK's aircraft carriers and so on, that will help tremendously. Battlefield support, this is more towards Germany, because look at this ground support buff. You get plus 20% ground support buffs whenever you're attacking enemy players and enemy nations and so on. This one right here, this one's more designed towards communist nations like the Soviet Union, Tanotulva, and so on. Just imagine, battlefield support is Axis, strategic destruction's allies, operational integrity is Comintern. That's the best way I remember to think about it. So it's allies, Axis, Comintern. Allies, Axis, Comintern, just alphabetical order. Anyway, guys, I know that's kind of a big video. I may have been babbling on there a little bit occasionally, but I hope this helps you guys out in a way. For my officer school video, it's really cold outside right now, and I've been busy the last few days, so I haven't really had time to make a really good video, so I just kind of threw this all together. So, I'm just realizing that we're almost 20 minutes in. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I will catch you guys later. Stay awesome.